Hello there, and welcome to The Open Road. I'm your host, Megan, also known as Rootless Adventure Company. I am a full-time adventurer and creative entrepreneur on a mission to make every moment of this beautiful life count. As someone who has built a life around travel after leaving my hometown for the very first time at 18, I have learned that we can truly do anything we set our minds to in this lifetime. I help people just like you and I live a fulfilling life that prioritizes freedom, happiness, and our adventurous bucket lists. Today's episode, I'm going to call it Solo Road Trip Thoughts. At the end of every long trip or period of travel that I do, I make sure to take a very long solo train ride or bus ride or drive or whatever home, just so I can kind of process all that travel on my own and go through kind of my main takeaways from it, how it affected me and how I want it to affect my future. Y'all know that I'm really big on meditating and journaling, so this is just kind of the time where I make sure to do that, and I make sure to do it alone, and I give myself plenty of hours to do. Today I am driving home from Iowa at the end of such a whirlwind of travel. Honestly, it is May 25th right now. The last time we caught up, it was about my trip to Mexico. So on May 1st, I left La Paz, Mexico, and then my boyfriend and I drove for a week to St. Louis, Missouri. We were home for about a week. And then I flew to Boston to help my twin brother, Devin, move. My whole family was actually supposed to be going to Boston this weekend for my brother's graduation from grad school. He literally finished all his classes. He wrote, defended, and passed his thesis. And then he decided to accept a fellowship, and so he has to remain enrolled as a student for another year, and so unfortunately was unable to walk at graduation, and his fellowship is actually in Serbia, so he'll be living in Serbia for the next year. So not only did I want to spend some time road tripping with my twin brother before he moves, but he also needed somebody's help moving, so I definitely jumped on the opportunity to still go to Boston. And yeah, also I've gone to visit him in Boston in the past, and we have never really gotten to explore. He's only been there for 2 years because, like I said, he was only there for grad school. Whenever I have been there over the last 2 years, it's always been when I'm traveling and I kind of just need a place to rest and relax. So this was the first time that I went to Boston, and we just went out on the town and enjoyed Boston, and it was so much fun. I rarely get to travel with my twin brother. If you guys don't know him, he's actually going to be next week's guest. He is literally the coolest person ever. He's the one who actually inspired me to travel for the first time. He definitely travels a lot. His travel inspired his degree that he ended up getting and the career that he decided to pursue. So you will meet my twin brother Devin next week. Even if you do know him, it's probably been a long time since you've caught up with him and you're wondering, why the heck is Devin going to Serbia for a year? And why has he been going to Europe so much? We'll get into all that next week, as well as just what it's like being twins in general. So yeah, sorry, side tangent about my brother, but it makes sense because I was traveling with him. So I flew to Boston, had a super fun weekend, and then we drove from Boston to St. Louis. We just packed it all into a little SUV and went on to a road trip. He doesn't really have any furniture, so one thing about us that is similar as twins is we both always make sure that everything we own can just fit into an SUV. We don't want to be messing with U-Hauls and all that jazz. We wanted to make this road trip kind of as quick as possible because we were limited on time for our next trip. We will get there. But we didn't want to drive halfway across the country and not stop and enjoy it at all, right? So the first day of our trip, we only drove like a few out. I think it's hilarious that we both wanted to stop in the same town for completely different reasons. There's this town called New Paltz, New York. It's really cute. You probably haven't heard of it unless you like live in New York or New York City. But I just have a friend who lives there. So I've been going there every time I pass through New Paltz, which has been several times now over the years, to hang out with my friend. And Devin wanted to stop there because his friends that he has in grad school did their undergrad in New Paltz. So I think it's hilarious that we both wanted to stop there. Twins are weird. And we had such a great time. We met up with my friend Katie and her fiance, and I gave her way too many demands for the restaurant that we were going to go to for lunch, and she totally killed it because we were short on time. I wanted to go on a little hike close to town, and then Devin wanted to have lunch at a winery with a good view. And so I know that was a lot, but we ended up at the perfect place. I don't remember what it's called, but it's just like in the main little downtown area of New Paltz. That's really adorable. That little cobblestone street. It's the rooftop terrace at the end, and it just has a very pretty overlook of, is it the Catskills out there? I think it's the Catskills, but I hope I'm not wrong. I think it's the Catskills. But either way, it's a beautiful mountain view. Checked all the boxes. Thank you, Katie. And then we headed on our way to Pennsylvania for the evening, where we just kind of got a quick express hotel and then drove the whole next day home. And then we were only home for a day, and then I had to drive Devin to Iowa, drop him off in the middle of Iowa for the summer, to join his drum corps. I'm not going to explain what drum corps is. If you know, you know, but he goes on tour for the summer, and I had to drop him off in Iowa. So I spent the night there, and then I'm almost home now. I have just finished all of this travel, and now I'm almost home, but I wanted to stop and kind of go over, my whole thought process with you, because like I said, on these long road trips, I just really get very introspective after a lot of travel, especially because my intention for, especially this trip to Mexico, was to figure out what I want to do next in life. And I feel like during this road trip, I've really thought about what my priorities in life were in my early 20s when I started traveling, and even my mid 20s. But now I am 27, and this year in particular, I'm really starting to see my priorities in life and travel and my relationship with travel really changing. So yeah, I wanted to go through all of that with you. So, like I said in my last episode, the reason why George and I went on this trip to Mexico was not just to check off a bucket list item. We wanted to see what it was like to travel full time together, to see if it was something that we wanted to do in our future, or like just traveling somewhere for a season and then like moving somewhere else for a season, you know what I mean? Like go to Baja for the spring, and then we thought about going to California for the summer, and like Colorado for the winter, you know what I mean? Like we thought about doing that too. Over the last month, we both have decided, I mean, it was pretty obvious right away that we didn't want to travel full time in the Jeep together because, I mean, we only did it for a few weeks and then we ended up renting an apartment. While it is super fun and a great way to check off something on your bucket list, we clearly would need a van or something much bigger if we wanted to do that more regularly. And currently, I not only still have a car payment on my Jeep, but I just love it, and I do want to keep it even after I pay it off for a significant period of time. I just really enjoy my Jeep. I like taking it on smaller camping trips, but it is really nice to have a home in between. And again, we did think about potentially rent different places seasonally. If we did want to continue traveling, we definitely just did not want to travel in a Jeep. We two adults that have full-time jobs. Once we thought about continuing to travel, that's when we started thinking about our other priorities in life. The thing about traveling full-time that I've realized since I have been doing it for the most part since I was 18 years old is that other areas of your life can't really grow while you're traveling because there's just so much life maintenance to do in your free time. When I started traveling at 18, that period of like 18 to 24 is really what I like to call throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. I had hardly ever been outside of St. Louis, Missouri. I literally just wanted to try everything. I had no idea what I wanted out of life. And I love that. First of all, I think everybody should do that in their 20s. I have absolutely no regrets. I was always willing to get a new job if I didn't see myself wanting to grow in the one that I was at. I was always willing to move to a new town just to see if I liked it. I would literally spend every last penny I had on a plane ticket or a backpacking trip. And I think your early 20s are the time to shift and change whenever it doesn't feel right anymore until you find what is right. And I traveled to almost 20 countries by myself and almost the entire United States. I only have two states left outside of Hawaii and Alaska. So I've definitely thrown spaghetti at the wall. And then the year that I was 25, I went to therapy for that whole year and really thought about what I wanted to stick in my life. And when I was 26, I moved home that year and started focusing on those other priorities that were not travel related. And I would go on trips intentionally, like I would go on trips during my favorite seasons to travel. I would create work trips around the places that I really wanted to go or the things that I wanted to accomplish on my bucket list, both in life and business that year. I was combine all those things. So all my trips were very intentional versus just traveling all the time this past year, and I really liked that and I really got to focus on those things in my life that were not travel related that I did want to stick, which was relationships and my career, my financial goals, and even my priorities in travel really started to shift. When I was young and I was backpacking, I was regularly single. I didn't have a job that I loved. I don't just have a job anymore where I just want to go in, clock in and out and get a paycheck and leave as quickly as possible so I can go like enjoy my own life. Like the way that I make money is a way that I'm very passionate about, that I really enjoy doing. I've really built solid relationships with my clients, want to go the extra mile for them, and I would truly be devastated if they found somebody else to help them with their goals. So yeah, that's something that I have at 27 that I did not have in my early 20s, a career that I love. I did not have a boyfriend ever really when I was traveling when I was young. I was definitely not ever in relationships that I thought had any long-term potential. And my financial goals are definitely different than they were when I was younger. You know, when you're young, you're broke. You don't have a career yet. You don't have like years of savings generally unless your parents gave that to you. But my priorities in travel have also changed. I don't want to travel on my own all the time anymore. I really like going on trips with my friends. When I was young and I was in the workforce, they were mostly in college and our schedules and budgets just never aligned. Whereas now it's a lot more common for that weekend getaway or like week-long trip to actually make it out of the group chat. And so I really enjoy traveling with my friends. I really want to prioritize relationships in my life right now. Before this year, I had only ever seen my parents maybe once a year and my closest friends. People always ask me if I get lonely when I'm traveling, and I don't get lonely in the ways that you would expect. Like, when I spend a week alone in the woods, I can certainly keep myself occupied. but over time, like when you only get to hug your parents once a year and you can only call your closest friends on the phone, while that connection is there, when you're not making new memories together regularly, those friendships don't feel as fulfilling. And over the past year that I've been home, I've really started to understand the benefits of staying in one place, building a community, spending time with your family and friends on a daily basis. So yeah, community is definitely something that I want to prioritize in my life right now. And I think that's really the biggest reason why we don't want to move somewhere seasonally. We just want to move somewhere kind of more permanently that we would enjoy, where we can just go to the beach for sunrise or to a quick mountain for sunset, and where we can build a community around us that expect us to stay. Because that's another thing, like even when I move somewhere just for a short period of time, I can also get pretty lonely because I find that people really don't want to get close to me. It's not personal. It's just like if they think I'm only going to be there temporarily, they, don't want to be my best friend. And I get that because it's really hard to keep in touch with so many people. There's so many people that I love from the places that I've lived for just like 6 months to a year. But the reality is to catch up with all of those people regularly is just really difficult to do. And when you are an adult with a lot to do, it's just calling your friends can't happen as often as I would like them to. So I definitely want to prioritize being around a lot more for my friends and to cultivate relationships, not only in life but also in business. Sometimes jobs are in person, clients don't want to pay for your travel, and I totally get that. It's much easier to get a job if you are local. It's hard to receive mail when I don't have a mailing address. I've had to not take jobs before on like adventure excursions because I couldn't find somebody to watch my dog and it was too hot to leave her in the car. It takes 7 years to do something that should only take 20 minutes because my Wi-Fi sucks. Like, there's just so many reasons why being in one place is more conducive to work when you constantly have to find a new place to work every day. There's not enough time to actually get work done. I find that my priorities in travel have also shifted. I have now been to pretty much all of the United States and Canada and the parts of Mexico that I would be interested in driving to. So it's not really a priority to me to see more of it, or even to bounce around. At this point, I know where my favorite place in America is, and that's California, and that's also Georgia's favorite place in America, so why go anywhere else when we just know where we love, you know? And then now, the things that I want to prioritize on my bucket list is like going to new countries and new continents. I definitely want to visit South America and Asia, Hawaii. I haven't been to any of those places, so I definitely want to prioritize those more so than the places in the continental US. And especially if my brother is going to be living in Europe, it's important for me financially to be able to go to Europe to visit my brother very often. So yeah, I can definitely see priorities in travel starting to change. I want to go on more international trips and start to see more places that are outside of the US. I want to prioritize those types of trips more so than trips in the United States. And that's not to say I don't want to travel in the United States at all. It's just that I want to prioritizing my funds toward those more international trips. So yeah, that's a lot of what I thought about on my road trip today, just kind of how my priorities have changed, and I think that's okay. I've had so many wonderful travel experiences, but when I left home at 18, I had never been anywhere, and I traveled to nearly 20 countries and all of the continental US by myself. And a lot of those places were in the US and Western Europe. Actually, all of those places were in, well, the US, Canada, Mexico, and then Western Europe is the entirety of the travel that I've done. I really want to start prioritizing other places like South America and Australia and New Zealand and the Balkans, and I really want to go to Africa, hike Mount Kilimanjaro. So yeah, there's just a lot that I want to do now that's not within driving distance, and I want to start prioritizing that. I want to keep prioritizing my career and serving my clients, build my web design and marketing company, and yeah, just live in a place that I really love. So but I hope this episode made sense. I think it was really just kind of like a rant of what was going on in my head, but I hope it can help you on your next long road trip. I do actually have a journal prompt that I normally go through at the end of a long trip. I just didn't go through it today because a lot of what is on it is what I went over in my last episode, where I kind of go through the experiences that I went through on the trip, my main takeaways, and how I want it to affect my life in the future. Whereas I feel like this episode was a lot more so just like my thoughts and my feelings after traveling full-time for 7 years and then living at home for a year and then trying to kind of dabble into travel again. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this year having a solid foundation place to live and then just taking these bucket list trips every so often and then traveling for work in the meantime. I just want to do it in a place that's not my hometown. I'm definitely ready to leave home and make my way to California. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode, but I hope you learned something new or at least found it entertaining. If you liked this episode, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram or Spotify so you never miss an episode. You can leave a review or share it on social media. It would really help us out. And don't forget to make every moment of this beautiful life count. See you next Thursday. Bye.